So part of the reason that I started this, daily practice in bravery, was to talk about things that I experienced growing up and as an adult, right, throughout life, that were hard and that I feel like should be talked about more. One of the things, let's see, the first time I ever saw racism in real life, because there comes a point in every person's life when they see it for the first time. No one really knows about it when they're little, right? Like, it's something that you learn about as you grow older. And a lot of people just don't talk about it. So the first time I ever saw it was in my own family. I came from a small town, big family. My dad was one of 8. I'm one of 5. At the time, I was one of 2. But my grandparents' house was the center of our family. It was where everyone gathered once or twice a week, and everyone came over, all of my aunts and uncles and their kids, which grew more every year. And one year, one of my aunts, my dad's one of his older sisters, who I admired a lot, came over, and she brought her boyfriend, which, sounds really cool, right? Should have been really cool. He was a black guy. They'd been dating for a while, apparently, and it was like serious enough that she was bringing him home to meet her family. She clearly didn't think that it was going to be a thing. And I remember seeing them, pull up. It's a long driveway. They get out. I'm like, oh, excite. My aunt's brought someone over. Like, how cool. A new person to meet, bring into our family circle, right? Because it was big, and that was like, what we did. Like, everyone got together, and I was like, cool, a new person coming in. And it was not so cool. A couple of my uncles, maybe even my dad, I can't remember, but I remember them getting out of the car, and they didn't even make it to the front porch before they were greeted. And I remember going towards the door. I didn't make it out on the porch. I was stopped by an adult, but I made it far enough to see what happened and to hear what happened. And my uncle called that man a nigger, and he called my aunt a nigger lover, and it was really dramatic, and it was kind of scary as a kid. Like, I had no idea why. I didn't know what that meant, and everyone was just, they kind of just like brushed it off and acted like it was nothing. And whenever I asked questions about it, they were like, well, don't worry about it. That's grown-up talk. You don't need to know about that. And she didn't come around the family anymore for some years. It was quite a thing, and I didn't really ever think about it anymore until I was in, I think, 5th grade, and I moved to a new school. We moved around a lot. I was changing schools a lot in elementary school, but I had come back to my town, one of the towns that I'd been in previously, but it had been several years, and I was riding the bus, and we weren't living with my grandparents at that time. It was one of the few moments when we were, my dad had his own place, and we were living separate, and I was visiting my mom like every other weekend, sometimes less, but I was on the school bus, and I was hanging out with my new best friend, this little black girl, and we were just different kids, like we were both kind of creative and quiet and didn't have a lot of friends, but we like really connected, and we were like homie G-slices, right? And we were at the high school, and the high schoolers were getting off the bus, and this really beautiful black girl walked by and put lotion in my hair. I had like really long hair at the time, and my girlfriend told me that she had done that, and I didn't believe her. I was like, there's no way. Like, why would anyone do that, right? Like, it's crazy. But yeah, like, and I thought that was really strange, and I asked her why, and she said she didn't know, and like, I asked lots of adults, and they just kind of brush it off, and they're like, people pick on each other all the time, it's just part of growing up and being the new kid. And then I had another aunt on my stepdad's sister, and she married a black man, and some little black cousins, and they were all awesome, super cool. But I talked to her about it when I was older, and I was like, I think that, I was like, I felt like that was like the only weird thing. And she was like, that's racism. She was like, she did that because you had long, pretty hair. And I thought that was the wildest thing that I had ever heard, because that girl had long, beautiful hair, and she was older than me and prettier than me. And I, like, from afar admired her. And it was just, a really strange experience. But, people experience things like this all the time, and I feel like it's something that we should all normalize and talk about, because I think that the more that people talk about things like this and normalize it, the less likely it is to happen in the future. And perhaps, the severity of experiences that people have might decrease if more people talk about it and it's normalized. And, so that's one of my stories I was feeling brave to share, building up here, because, I've got a lot. And, but yeah, that was just something I was thinking about today, and thought that I might be brave enough to share. Anyway,